to host you on this delightful journey by facilitating this platform as our way of giving back to the community and stakeholders that keep us motivated. And of all things, we expect just one thing from you: to share this light of knowledge with your friends, family, peers, and your network. Do invite them to register for these sessions or subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ram Ratna International School Official. Thank you for joining in today, and we look forward to an inspiring session. Onward we go, forward we march. Best wishes from Ram Ratna International School.
It's 3:30. We expect about 40 plus. So, with the speaker's permission, if we wait for a minute more,
Yes, Dr. Jayaji, surely.
we'll do that. So begin in this time.
Yes, please.
So it's 3:31, and let us not delay. I'm sure meanwhile the participants will keep joining. So namaste, welcome, a very beautiful afternoon to today's speaker. Today's Aadharshila, the 80th Aadharshila, Mr. Sushrut Badhe ji, and to all our participants who have been with us right from April 2020, when the concept, the seed of Aadharshila was sown. Mr. I would first like to introduce our speaker, Mr. Sushrut Badhe, who is the CEO of KVM Research Laboratories. Sir is an Indian author, researcher on Sanskrit scriptures, and manufacturer of Ayurvedic products. He has rewritten the Sanskrit scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and the three Upanishads in rhymed English. Born in Puducherry, after completing his bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Pondicherry Engineering College, Sri Badhe joined Sri M.R. Namle in 2011 as his Shishya in KVM Research Laboratories to learn about the Gita, manufacturing and research of Ayurvedic medicines. Currently, Sir is the CEO of KVM Research Laboratories, which manufactures Ayurvedic health products, and is a researcher at Midam Charitable Trust, where he studies the use of Vedic chants for children with autism spectrum disorder through the Vedic Chants Intervention Program designed by Sri M.R. Damle. In 2014, he published a book of poems titled The Rhythm of the Spirit, a collection of select 34 poems on man, life, and God. The poem A Father's Song from the book was appreciated by the former president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. In the same year, Sir published an ebook, Voice of Krishna, Secrets of the Self, in which he rewrote the first 5 chapters of the Sanskrit scripture Bhagavad Gita into English rhymes. In 2015, Sir rendered all 700 Sanskrit verses of the 18 chapters of the Gita into English rhymes and released a paperback, Bhagavad Gita, Rhythm of Krishna, under Sri Aurobindo's Action Publications. In 2021, in a philosophical exploration in the Journal of Religion and Health, he co-authored a paper, COVID-19, Moral Injury and the Bhagavad Gita, with neurologist Dr. Sunil Narayan and psychiatrist Dr. Bindu Menon. Sushrut Sir's Bhagavad Gita, Rhythm of Krishna, and senior pathologist Dr. Bhavna Badhe's Krishna's Better for Champion Students was used for developing a Gita teaching module for kids with practical examples and meaningful illustrations. Today's talk, as you can make out from Sir's profile, that it's going to be based on his own learnings, a lot of its practical implementation, and hence it would carry a lot of insights, original insights for all of us to follow in our life. Let's invite Sir to take us on this journey of exploring the Gita further to understand what are the management principles from the Gita which can promote individual and organizational excellence. How does the Krishna Arjun dialogue be, be reflecting a symbiotic individual organization relationships? Let's see, is the Gita still relevant for management and organizational behavior? Do the Krishna's selfless concepts apply for monetary aspects as well? So there are so many such questions whose answers we are looking forward to from this 1 hour talk from such an illustrious speaker, Mr. Sushrut Badhe. So, on behalf of the entire Ramratna International School family, I, Dr. Jaya Parekh, the principal, extends a very warm welcome to you and gratitude. Over to you, sir.
Namaste, Dr. Jaya, madam. Thank you very much. It is an honor to be at this Aadharshila group where so many wonderful illustrious talks have been held. I look forward to this opportunity to speak on the Gita. And as you have rightly said, is it relevant? Does it have any answer to modern day questions, especially in terms of management and organizational excellence? How can it promote? So I think without much ado, I will directly come to the session. First few slides, at least, I will ask questions where I'll show some personalities where participants will be aware of them. If you can just identify the connections, it would be very easy. I'll just start presenting the screen in a minute, just a second. Please confirm if you're able to see the screen.
Yes, we can see the screen.
All right. Yes. So management principles from the Gita for promoting individual and organizational excellence. Let's just directly enter into this. I've just put a collage of various wonderful personalities, eminent personalities, great personalities. Can anybody identify any of these personalities? You can please unmute and just point out any name. And if you can, their connection with the Gita.
So
Anybody?
you can either type or you can unmute and speak up. And sir has asked 2 questions, right? Identify and show their connection with Gita.
Yes, Dr. Jayaji. Yes, please. If you can even identify is sufficient, and then you can try guessing.
Try one.
Yes, please. Yes, ma'am.
I think the second row, first one, if the identification is correct, then I'll tell about the association.
Yes.
Is it
Yes.
Mr. Oppenheimer?
Oh, perfectly said. Yes, Mr. Oppenheimer.
So
yes,
if I'm right,
Oppenheimer.
when he was researching on the atomic bomb, what he said was the energy that comes out from an atom. He compared it to if from Adhyay 11 about qualities of Sri Krishna. Yadi bhas sadrushi sasyad. What he said is like the 1,000 suns splendid luminescence is what you see in an atom, if I'm correct.
There's one more shloka they say attribute to him. He was already he learned the Gita through his teacher from someone who taught him about a little bit of Sanskrit and the Gita.
Right.
What was interesting was in the Manhattan Project, when he first saw the great big mushroom cloud rise up the sky, he translated at Kalosmi, that particular shloka of Krishna is I am time. But he interpreted it as I am become death. That was a different interpretation, not exactly perfect, but still, the fact that a scientist from the West who is not connected with Oriental philosophy, he never ascribed completely to the Sanatan philosophy. Yet, he found something in the Gita which was so interesting that in this huge moment for mankind, great, terrible, different people have different feelings about it. But whatever it is at that moment, he could relate it to the Gita as something much of a absolute kind of.
Even when I read that, I was, my mind was blown with this information.
Yes, Jayaji. So that was the perfect. Both the things are right there, Jayaji. Any other person would like to share anything about the other pictures?
So we have some messages. Ms. Dhanashri says Lokmanya Tilak wrote a book called Gita Rahasya.
Yes. Lokmanya Tilak wrote a book about Gita Rahasya. Yes, that is Lokmanya Tilak in the Mandalay prison. He had written a beautiful in Maharashtra. It is now also revered the great scholarly work, The Secret of the Gita Rahasya. Yes, that is there.
And many have identified the personalities.
Yeah. Yes, ji. Who is below Tilak? Has anybody identified?
Who is?
Mahatma Gandhi, right?
Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes. Mahatma Gandhi ji. Now, interestingly, Mahatma Gandhi ji got introduced to it in the UK, and he was very surprised when he found that it was the most referred book in the library. And he talked about what we can say the concept of ahimsa. If you see Tilak Maharaj, as he is called in Maharashtra, and Mahatma Gandhi, they had actually diametrically opposite views. Both were great freedom fighters, great revolutionaries in their own right. But one talked about non-violence, the other talked about Shatam Prati Shatyam. So means it was like he created Lokmanya Tilak created a breed of karma yogi freedom fighters who were willing to give back. The oppressor is using the language of force, give it back to them with double the force. So that was his interpretation, and he got a lot of light from the Gita. Mahatma Gandhi himself has talked about anytime he was in darkness, he would open a page of the Gita, and the Gita would answer to his question. So yes, these two personalities and their connection has been established. Any other?
Mr. Gregory writes Rabindranath Tagore and Gitanjali.
Yes. Perfectly said. Yes, Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore.
Nobel laureate.
Yes, Nobel laureate. And Gitanjali, of course, it is well known and a very strong influence of the Gita was there. Yes, please.
I think I vaguely remember that Sunita Williams carried a pocket Bhagavad Gita with her.
Yes, she is absolutely. Sunita Williams is now from the modern times. She was
herself. Written the same.
Yes. It is, and it is the celestial scripture, and she was the first woman to take it to the celestial world. Nobody has got that distinction. She has taken it to the world, which in the celestial realm only, into space. So that is true. She had a Ganesha idol and Bhagavad Gita. Yes, that's Sunita Williams. Yes, anybody else?
Friends, you can unmute or you can type. I remember an incident from the life of Vivekananda when he was in the US, and somebody taunted by showing a pile of books where the Bhagavad Gita was at the bottom and said, see, look at the status of the Gita. And he said with a lot of pride that yes, it is the foundation of the rest of the knowledge. This being at the best, kept at the base indicates that this is the foundation of everything else.
That was a very nice, you can say, nice incident quoted. Yes, so Swami Vivekananda is known for his words, how he is right now also inspiring a lot of people through his, if you see his ideology, his philosophy. Yes, that is true. So there is Swami Vivekananda. There are two more figures we need to look at before we go to the next slide. Anybody recognize anyone? Anyone from the psychology field? Yes, please. Or no? Should I go ahead?
We are left with two personalities yet to be identified.
Yes. All right.
The very first one is
Annie Besant.
It's Annie Besant.
Yes, Philosophical Society, and she was also someone who was greatly inspired by the Gita. Found the freedom that was there in the Gita as a true spiritual freedom. That was itself a great aspect, and how she created society, created action for so many people. And the other person is Carl Jung, is what we can call him the founder of psychotherapy. Or we can say one of the main figures. We can say not directly the founder, but almost everybody in the medical field do learn about him in their starting years, because his contributions are tremendous. A multifaceted personality, nevertheless. So what we are seeing is we are seeing a lot of people.
What was his connect?
Yes, see?
What was his connect with the Gita?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I did not mention his connect with the Gita. Well, he talks something about in the Gita. There is something about some upside down tree. If people read it, they all get more confused when they try to understand what upside down tree, Ashwata Vruksha, the leaves are Vedas. Everybody gets confused.
Begins with that.
Perfectly said, Japanese.
Roots up and branches down.
Yes. Upside down tree, roots are seated in eternity, and it traps people in some kind of pond. Well, found some great meaning which was hidden that, and he said I found that to be very interesting. So yes, I think it just established a different. All these are without doubt great people. All these great people have something. Those if you see next to somebody, next to Mahatma Gandhi, they have placed Robert Oppenheimer. I think those would never have been, Gandhiji would never want to be next to him, of course. But if you see, Gita is something which is allowing people of various ideologies also to derive some strength. We can say all great people, maybe they are somehow influenced by this Gita, or can we even go to this extent of saying Gita did play a role in making a lot of people great? In India, if you see one of the greatest, most spiritual leaders, all of them have derived some kind of strength from the Gita. It's just established a base of what Gita is having a significance. But if you see modern, you can say younger generation, who do not have direct link with everything that's going on or what was before, they might wonder what is the use? What is the use? Well, if we can just look at the recent trends of research, I've just highlighted some of the journals. First is American Journal of Psychiatry. Psychiatry deals with, as we all know, with human beings, way of thinking, their difficulties, issues, mental health, all these aspects. Right now, COVID times is really mental health is one of the biggest health issues that the world is facing. Well, American Journal of Psychiatry, long back, not just now, it was long back, they published an article. Doctor, I think his name was Pandurangi from a person who's interesting from Pondicherry, though I don't know him personally. He went on to publish a beautiful journal paper in that respected journal. Excuse me. So that journal talked about the model of psychotherapy which is there in the Gita. And Krishna's model of psychotherapy is something which was interesting to a lot of psychiatrists. If you go to the Indian Journal of Psychiatry or if you search the what we call PubMed, you just see first 4 or 5 pages are full of research articles on the need for integrating the principles of the Gita in modern practice of psychotherapy, also in patient care and mental health aspects. It's something which is very interesting. Now, European Heart Journal. This is one of the prestigious journals in the world. A lot of people, a lot of scientists, a lot of researchers really try to get their articles published there. And then, in the middle of pandemic, this European Heart Journal wrote about Gita, and it was Dr. Kalla et al. All of them wrote about how these principles of the Gita can help healthcare workers deal with. This was when the first wave was attacking, and then people were just somehow, finding their lost ground, trying to regain, and the medical system was pretty much shocked with the first wave of the pandemic. And then it started entering into the second wave. So how do you deal with it? And they are beautiful principles of the Gita for healthcare workers. It was specifically told for healthcare workers. And next, this journal, Indian Journal of Religion and Health, I had a good fortune of contributing the article in that journal. But there, they've this Dr. Bindu Menon and Dr. Sunil as well. They identified these 4 Ds: Dharma, detachment. We have another 2 more Ds there. I've missed quoting it here. Dhyana is also there as a third one. And then one more I'm not able to right now find. I'll just share the paper as well later on. You can just see. So here, what we did was how this particular scripture, what is its use? How can we understand what are its benefits? And very recently, if you see, maybe less than a month ago, one of the premium management institute in terms of now, if you see, management requires even psychology also as an important aspect. Everybody has to first manage that, and now for that. Gita's role, especially for leadership roles and for people, that was launched in a private, in a premium institute of management. They had a pretty short course though for 6 or 7 days, and it was a paid course. But nevertheless, that even the management institutes are also now seeing many places people talk about Gita, and Gita's relevance has increased tremendously. That is what I think we can see. I think relevance
of did this residential program, 1 week residential program at IIM Ahmedabad.
Okay.
On strategic school leadership.
Okay.
There were modules which showed how strategic leadership can be learned from the Gita.
Okay, from the Gita, is it not? Okay, so nice indeed. So maybe Dr. Jayaji can see if some models are there or it's something that you can also point out anytime. So that's nice to know. So if you see this aspect, Gita is now gathering interest. Whether it is earlier, people would believe it was a book that was kept at for worshipping. You put flowers, you put agarbatti, or then in some homes they said don't keep the Gita in the house or Mahabharata takes place. This is also a dialogue which I've heard many times. That's also a superstition only which people have in their minds. Otherwise, people say Gita is a book that needs to be read after your retirement. The right age is only after retirement, not before, because it teaches you to be sannyasi, is what people say. But that is absolutely not right. That I studied it nearly 6 years back. I was not very old then, nor was I a sannyasi then or now. But it was something which was very interesting. But the general mind of the people is that no, I'd be happy if you did Gita for me, what my uncle had told me, but not read and study the Gita. That was a very strange suggestion. Nevertheless, recently, especially in the last 2-3 years, Gita has got a lot of what we can say relevance. I don't need to establish, but if anybody wishes to ask any question about its relevance, I'm open to it. Or I'll go to the next slide where we directly enter into the subject. Yes, please. Does anybody have any queries about the Gita as such?
So I see 4 Ds, detachment and dharma are there.
Yes.
Let's get the other two.
Yes. I think I may take a minute because though I wrote the paper, I'm not prepared. One is dhyana, definitely.
Okay.
But Sanskrit words are more easier in the head. These were this idea was of the psychiatrist. So I'm not. I had quoted shlokas, but what was the D? I think it could be. I'll just find it out.
Okay.
Dharma, detachment, dhyana, and probably duty.
Achha.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
But dharma and duty are the same. I'm having a doubt, so I'll just check and probably let you know. Yes. So about the relevance, though, is there any doubt, or have we established enough ground that yes, it is relevant? Maybe we can explore if it is for management. That needs to be explored. But that it is not relevant, I don't think any. Can we go ahead? Is what I would like to ask. Yes, please. You could.
Yes, sir, we can go ahead.
All right, fine. All right, thank you. So now we come to the topic what we are looking at, organizational management. So basically, this is a science only. What people say, you have to study it deeply because it requires meticulous planning and control of these resources. So what are the resources? Well, primarily we can call them 5 resources. There are various classifications. It's about the optimum use of these resources. We have resources of materials, machines, minutes, money, and then there's the human resource. So the first 4 are very easy to, fairly easy, not very easy, but fairly easy in comparison to the 5th one, because materials can be planned, machines, minutes, money, they're not living, is it not? We can plan and we can control, they'll not resist our control. Our planning may fail, but they will not, revolt. But now human resource is a big challenge because, well, that is human nature. Human nature is something which is itself a challenge. Several years of research is going on, and yet we try to understand why do human beings behave this way or they do not behave this way. And so human resource management is a big challenge. To understand that, first we need to have a manual of humans only, and there's no better manual than Bhagavad Gita. This is one understood fact for human beings. The recent all interest of psychiatrists and psychologists itself confirms it. Anybody wishes to study the Gita, you will see the drama unfold. The Kurukshetra is not really a Kurukshetra which is just took place 5,000 years old ago. It's not like nowadays also we have Kurukshetras only. It is brothers fight over each other for property. It is not so different from the time of Arjuna. Even now, Hastinapur throne is equally important. Delhi's throne, everybody fights for that. In politics as well, that time also politics was taking place. So many factors. Arjuna's depression, how he goes through that depression, and how Krishna deals with him. And the way he deals with him is a lesson for everyone. Many of us, sometimes ourselves or even our friends may go through certain lean phases. How do we deal with ourselves? How do we deal with others? All of this can be understood in the Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is something, apart from its scriptural value, apart from its spiritual value, apart from why it's called a Vedantic text, it's called a Gita Upanishad. The Bhagavad Gita is called if you cannot study the Vedas, no problem. Upanishads are complicated. You have not gone into metaphysics, fine. Read the Gita. Gita gives you entry, they say, in the spiritual world. But leaving that aside, maybe if practical world is something we are looking at, not that it is different from the spiritual world, but still, practically, what is its significance? Well, we'll just see why it's a manual of humanity. We can look at a couple of quotes of Maharishi Aurobindo Ghosh. A true nature, a true scripture of the human race, a living creation rather than a book with a new message for every age and a new meaning for every civilization. Our aim must be to distinguish its essential and living message, that in it on which humanity has to seize for its perfection and its highest spiritual welfare. These two quotes of Sri Aurobindo, if somebody were to just study Sri Aurobindo, you'll find so many facets, so many qualities in his personality. One, he was a clairvoyant yogi, he was a revolutionary freedom fighter. Subhash Chandra Bose drew inspiration from him. Lokmanya Tilak would address him as Aravinda with love. He was someone, everybody had a different aura in the spiritual world also. British also wanted to somehow hang him. That's where they put him in that Alipur case as well. Well, he was a poet. His poetry even now is the stuff of legends. People still try to understand his Savitri. He was a spiritual guru in Pondicherry. There is this ashram of Sri Aurobindo. There is Auroville, which is founded on the ideal of Sri Aurobindo, and his yoga's way, the integral yoga, is another very special one. It integrates all practices of yoga for the highest realization. Interestingly, somebody wishes to ask something, you are welcome.
Sir, I just got the reference to the work that you mentioned for 4Ds, and the fourth one which we were missing out was doership.
Yes, thank you. Doership, Karta Bhava, yes.
Karta Bhav. So
yes.
Ms. Paramjit also asked for its meaning. So maybe if you could just
yes,
explain in brief what doership is or Karta
Bhav.
Yes.
Fine. Certainly. Now, if you see a doer, who is the doer? That is an important aspect in the Gita. When they talk about karma yoga, they talk about karma, akarma, how karma, how different types of karma. It's a little deep in that way. But who is the doer? Are you the doer, or are you the alpha and omega? If you look at it in terms of today's lecture, that we are looking at management. It is if you look at the individual, is the individual thinking that he is the soul and soul of the organization? He is the doer. If it happens, what we can call the ego of the individual starts getting bloated up so much that it comes in the way of individual progress as well as the organizational progress as well. But Gita talks about understanding that you are not the main doer. The doer is the divine and you are the instrument. Because Arjuna was the instrument of the divine, but Arjuna did not realize that. So he thought, what is this? I have to do, how am I going to do everything? I am overwhelmed. I cannot do this. This is beyond my capacity. And his emotions took the better of him. Because he was only thinking he is doing everything. As he began to understand the Gita, it did not happen overnight or even it happened in a short period of discussion, but 18 chapters, long dialogues, questions, cross questions. Arjuna was not ordered anything by Krishna. Even in the 18th chapter, Krishna says, now if you want to run away, you can run. What is it you want to do? He says, yes, that Akuru. You are free to do what you wish. But that time he says, no, I want to serve you. I want to become for the manifestation of the divine plan. So that doership, I think that was in the context of the article. It was in the context of how the system of medicine, the medical system was suddenly overwhelmed. And if each individual or doctor felt he is in charge of everything and he's now not able to work, a lot of emotional trouble starts happening. Because I could not save this patient. I don't have resources. My institute is suffering. How do I do everything? I cannot save the world. Well, you can understand. You may not be able to save the world, but nevertheless, you are a hero, and you and so many heroes like you are actually contributing in the saving of the world. Then that would ease the burden, and I am a part of a system and movement. You can understand that movement is happening behind the scenes. That is what doership is about. I will share that article also if anybody wishes to read it. It has been described there. Yes,
If I could get in a word here. So
yes.
what I remember from few of the shlokas from the last adhyaya, 18th adhyaya, when it comes to the task which is done, the karma, जब हम कर्ता भाव करते हैं, so कर्म है, उसके पीछे five factors are there, one of which the first one is the intent itself becomes your karma, and then your three guna, the nature you have, the raj, tamas or sat. So those, you are just one part of it. Actually, you are the instrument.
Yes.
So whatever we do, we should do with an akarta bhav. We shouldn't think. In fact, एक श्लोक में भगवद गीता में ये भी है कि जो मूर्ख हैं वो मान लेते हैं कि कर्ता मैं हूँ, कर्ता मिति मन्यते, So
Hmm.
वो
Yes,
वो नहीं सोचते हैं कि मैं कर रहा हूँ. So basically, we should deliver our duties without the sense of being the karta or the doer,
yes,
right?
yes, and that was something Arjuna did understand. After he was a great yogi himself. Arjuna was a warrior, but somewhere he felt he was the doer, and it took a lot of time. So that is why Gita is about even the sukshma feeling we must understand that how much, and it saves a person from a lot of trouble. When you do that, it's like responsibility is not yours, your responsibility is only in the action. But I think we will come to that. So yes, thank you, Dr. Jayaji. So as I was talking about Sri Aurobindo, Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga has also, what we can say, given inspiration to another stream of management called management by consciousness, where consciously the management takes effort to establish harmony in the organization and at the same time get wonderful outputs from the organization. So we're going to just see how Gita is going to help us. This quote, the two quotes that we saw, we see Sri Aurobindo talking about it. He says that yes, it is not just it's a scripture, it is more than it's something which is alive. Because why is it referred? Why is it referred so regularly? Why are scientists from across the world trying to scrutinize its thoughts, see its meaning? And why is it that people are finding meanings? Well, it was plus 5,000 plus years old. Then now, if you see freedom struggle, okay, we can understand there was a war going on. But why is now Sunita Williams? Why is Tulsi Gabbard taking oath on it? Why are so many people across the world now? Why are management courses being launched? Are they not secular? Because that even in the International Journal of Health and Religion, they describe the book as a secular text. But what is it that is giving them? There's some message in it. There is some message in it which is giving meaning, and that is why it is being respected. That is why it is being researched. So it is what it is giving is the highest for humanity. The highest is the perfection of human race, where we are many times we hear we have to be human. But when we are human, we do a lot of human mistakes, and there's a problem in humanity also, which has to be removed. So we have to become divine, is what Sri Aurobindo talked about, so that we can experience the joy of life divine and Ananda without the human troubles. We can have wonderful relationships. Yes, good relationships also have arguments, but do arguments have to be a part of integral good relationships? I don't think so. I have seen some wonderful relationships of some people where not many battles have to take place, yet it can go ahead so well. So let us go ahead. We will just enter into this the individual organization relationship. It is most of the times a tug of war. The organization is trying to get the best and extract the most output of an individual. We can do that as we saw for 4 of the 5 resources, because the machines you can ensure that it's oiled well, and you can run it on 3 shifts. Even in our unit we try to run the machine well. If we do just oiling, we ensure that everything circuitry is perfect, we don't have to worry, it will keep running. But that is not the case of human beings. So an organization cannot keep extracting things more than required from an individual and treat the individual as not an important aspect. Same way, organization like that, individual feels I need to negotiate with that organization and get the most out of it. So it's like a perennial tug of war taking place. Sometimes the organization gets a little bit more of it, or sometimes the individual gets the more of it. But it is always like a war, and it creates what we can say a state of indifference between the organization and the individual, which later on manifests into more troubles. Many times, this is a false corporate culture where people say that there should be an indifference only. People should work for the paycheck, not more than that. Nobody's value can be determined by a paycheck. The smallest person to the largest person each has a role in contributing. Each of them have an important role. But when this happens, the cruel indifference takes place because they try to get immediate success. So we fire people. That's how we're going to work now. We're in a difficult period, and then immediately this leads to maybe sometimes short-term success, but many times it leads to big loss for organization only, because definitely for the individual it's a big loss, but for the organization, when the loyalty of the members in the organization starts waning, then it becomes an issue. So, but is it a tug of war? Should there be a tug of war all the time? How does one manage? So that is something we will look for light in the Gita. First one is no war takes place when there is peace. When peace and harmony prevails. This is a simple logic. War is there when there is no peace and harmony. But how do we bring about peace and harmony is a big question. I, for once, I talked to my teacher, my guru Damliji, whose last 11 years I've been living with him under him and under his direction. he told me the first thing is you have to manage yourself. Without managing yourself, you cannot think of managing others. Because any manager, any leader will have to first understand himself. Otherwise, he cannot be a leader or she cannot be a leader. If one does not understand oneself, how will the person change or manage others? It is important, and Krishna is saying the same thing in the Gita. Know yourself. He wants Arjuna to recognize. So many ways he tries to, when Arjuna has lost his confidence, he tries to raise it. Ukishta, Parantapa, so many words he uses. It's like oh Kunti Putra, oh Partha, trying to remind him of his own good qualities also. Because somewhere we sometimes forget what we are really. So we need to find out ourselves first. We need to manage ourselves. So when you understand yourself, you can understand that you are nobody is perfect. All of us are human beings. We have our plus, we have our minus points. So when our minus points come, sometimes we don't like to look at it. But that's not something we can always carry on. We have to sometimes deal with it. So what is missing is to be looked at. It has to be analyzed, whether it is personal, physical self, emotional self, mental self. All these factors have to be looked at, because once they are looked at, then there is no problem at all. Because if you do not look at it, you're going to always have these. You'll be trying to brush it under the carpet, and suddenly one day you will not be able to brush it under the carpet anymore. But there's a lot of insecurity in these faults are trying to be hidden. Instead, if you can just address it, identify it, and you start riding above the insecurity, you begin trusting yourself. And then, when you are free from that, when you have understood yourself, you know which is your plus, which is your minus, and you know what to do. You are really a best example, because you will be a leader who will have faith in himself, and people will also have the faith in that individual. What we see in the Gita is a similar thing. 13th Adhyaya, this is more than halfway into the Gita. Krishna tells this to Arjuna. He begins with Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetra Mitya Vidhiyate Etadyo Veditam Prahu Kshetragnya Iti Tadvida. Meaning, oh Arjuna, this physical body that you own is the field that is to be known. And he who knows in principle its foundation is the knower, who knows its mode of operation. I think growing up in my college days in mechanical engineering, we were told that this is the fundamental for thermodynamics while designing of any machine. Identify the field, identify the surroundings, system, and environment, how the interactions take place. That is the basic law for designing any machine. Well, interestingly, Krishna is talking about this long back. He's talking about something where the individual is recognizing first the physical body. This is the instrument for me. My body has to be taken care of. Otherwise, how will I function? How will I lead? How will I become a leader if there is no one, my body is not taken care of? So as much as possible. So first identify that yourself has to be looked after is what Krishna says. Somebody who understands this, he understands the mode of operation of the world. He is more conscious, and he's able to then probably first looking at oneself, dealing with oneself right can help us deal with the surroundings as well. If you see, the surrounding is what we can call prakriti or nature. The 13th adhyaya, 19th shloka also talks about prakritim purusham chaiva vidyanadi ubhavapi vikaransha gunanshaiva vidhi prakriti sambhavan. Later on, we will see in this presentation only about dealing with these vikaras or the deformities, but let us just look at it now on a cursory glance. The Prakriti is the counterpart of the one being supernal. Like him, she too is immaculate and eternal. Is a metaphysical aspect which of the Gita which is not immediately relevant to our talk. But so Prakriti nature is there. She has originated from the divine. But within her only are all the qualities of nature, and also are the deformities. So one thing is we must understand we cannot live in one world where we cannot recognize that there are places which need correction. There are areas which need to be worked on. So first, understand yourself is understanding your surroundings. This is one important aspect, because if you do not understand yourself, there is no way you will be able to understand others. Because your mind is, you have not understood yourself, you are perennially confused. Every time a situation presents itself, you will try to find an answer, which will be a superficial one, but not the true answer. So first aspect we see is recognizing oneself. Next is the interesting one is letting go of personal choices. We all have our choices. We not what we can say in terms of workplace. We have our preferences also, but really it is. If you see, there are two theories if we can look at this. Again, was a beautiful lesson I learned from my only Dam, which I'm very happy to share about. Well, one is the usual way, which is allocate resources. You have plenty of resources with you. You have somehow got good purpose fund, you're able to advertise, you're able to sell it personal as per requirements for job quality. You put your entire description, then start training them towards achieving the goals. They are qualified, of course, you're getting very qualified people, but still, even if they're qualified, they need to be oriented to your goal. You have to train them, you have to supervise them, you have to keep guiding them from time to time. So that is one way. And there is another interesting one. Another process is, what if you don't have the resources? What if you do not have, you have some challenges? You're not able to get whether monetary resources or we can say personal. You're not, personal are not available. No matter how beautiful, the lucrative job offers you are posting, people are not willing to come to your location. People are not willing to work for some reason. Then how? What did you do in that situation? Do you close shop because you don't have your required people? Well, that time this is something which is very dynamic, and this is one interesting way is get the result available from those. Get the result from those available for the persons around when they are not trained, when they are not having proper knowledge. And there's only one way. We saw about first understanding oneself. Well, after you've understood oneself, you can actually understand people around you better, and you can change the consciousness of the surroundings. But only a conscious leader can do this. Now, is this just a theory or is it practice? We'll look at a Gita shloka and then we'll look at an example. What does this Gita shloka talk about? Well, we will just see the 22nd shloka of the 4th adhyay. Yadrucha labha santushto dvandvatito vimatsaraha samasiddha vasiddhau cha krutvapi na nibadyate. But whatever good that naturally comes your way, he is contented, thus never envious on any day. Both success and failure he greets with poise. Works don't bind him, for he has transcended choice. Now we have a choice, we have a taste of food. We're not saying don't have a taste of food and all. And that's fine. But when it comes to workplaces, if you're able to keep your choice and recognize the moment, identify what's coming naturally, and remain blissful, not jealous. Why did that person get this portfolio? I should have got this. And well, success and failure both happen in an organization. One cannot be only looking at success and closing eyes towards failure. That's also a great risk. So both, if you're able to grade with poise, such a person is not going to be bound by works. This is not going. He's not going to be disturbed so much, and that person has transcended choice. Now, this is a very nice example. How practical example of this particular thing. This is again from the life of my teacher only. I can share. I think I have got. I'm very lucky and fortunate that I can just quote examples from his life. With and of course, I don't have to ask his permission. He's always happy. So anyway, let me share. Just if you see, the world is always changing and dynamic. Right now, also we've got now another Omicron's third, one more wave is coming, is what people are saying, and we're already watching it. Suddenly, new lockdowns, new rules, everything is all plans when things are just falling in place. Well, that is the what we can say way of the world. It is dynamic, it is changing, and we have to keep our preferences aside. Otherwise, we cannot succeed. We cannot be rigid. We have to be malleable. Well, if you look at it in 1983, it was Damleji's teacher, Shri Gajanan Shivram Gokhleji, was a famous economist and ICS officer, also a social worker. It was interesting that during the emergency time, Indira Gandhi had also told not to arrest him because he was a spiritual person. But he gave a challenge to my teacher. He said, I want you to work on a new topic. You are a big executive, you have worked in so many companies, you have a good training record. Yes, but your topic is evolution, marketing, and management. As a senior executive, Damleji had trained many salesmen, but this new challenge was a big one because it was presented to him and he was told that now you have to sell in Mumbai's prime area a certain some his products, herbal products, Ayurvedic products, and without the regular salesperson, you are not going to. Yes, please. Is somebody wishing to raise something? A doubt? I just saw the someone speaker is turned on. May I continue? Yes, please.
Yes, please continue.
All right. Yes, please. So now, if you see, Mumbai is a prime area where now that time it was 1983. It was that time also regular sales personnel also there were. For this, they wanted only trained beauticians, and there were women who were, highly trained, and they were very fluent and eloquent in their speech, and very smart in their appearance, and for 4 hours they would require high pay. And this was the usual. So what even now, if you look at some places, that's the way it works. But instead, he received a telegram from his guru and he said, "Come to Mumbai from Pune. So your team of representatives is ready," is what he got. That was the only telegram that he got. So he said, "All right, let's go for a marketing now, one tour. Let us see what we can do," is what he thought. And he was ready with all his planning, how he is going to, train these executives, where he's going to send, what this person should speak. And when he reached there, his guru asked him, "Are you ready?" And he said, "Yes, I am ready." And then he started smiling. "See, this is your team," and he introduced him to 4 people. So out of the 4 people, one was a rickshaw puller, another was a illiterate villager who had come all the way from Madhya Pradesh, who is not even from Maharashtra. And then there were 2 village farm laborers. And he was told, like, "This is a challenge I'm keeping in front of you. No funds are going to be allocated, no special clothes are going to be given, but you'll have to do this work." And Amiji took it as a challenge. He said, "Okay, I will do it." Now, what was beautiful was that one is we can see the representatives are also ready to work under him because they had this full faith in the vision of this person. Like we said, when you manage yourself, it becomes very easy to manage others because a person who is well managed easily attracts followers. Here, his guru also has full faith that yes, he will do it. And these representatives, well, one of them used to take video, more used to smoke, one more used to chew tobacco, all these bad habits that these people had. So he had to first tell them to not do all of it, and then when he saw he's not able to convince them to do it, at least not do it while you're marketing. Then how do you work with them? He went and he sat with them instead of sitting with the executives. He said, "Now next few days I will sit with you. I will eat with what you are eating. Let us work on a plan." And they had full faith in Dambi's leadership, though they had never done this job before. So if you see, it is not possible that way to suddenly raise someone who is not having that consciousness. It's not easy, but it is not impossible, is what I understood from the experience in Amli's, that expression was very nice. He got the product was nice, and it was very interesting the way these 4 persons with the pumped up charge which they received. They did bring about something, and he got very good, what we can say, compliments from his guru. Another guru-like figure of his, who had watched him perform and function, he said, "This you can also sell on the moon." And you won't believe it, in 1988 at 42, again the challenge came to him. And this is how a person is when a person is dynamic. No challenge is too big. At 42, a wife and 2 children, coming to Pondicherry. Pondicherry in 1988 was not really so developed as it is now, with just 1,000 rupees, not knowing the language, but something the inner spirit called and went. And he started from scratch. He started KVM Research Laboratories in 1988, and he developed. Earlier he had only one product, and I remember first how he had manufactured using buckets before his industry got set up. And here people came and he said, "I don't have. I'm just beginning now. I don't have a unit to pack. I don't have. No, please give me. We will take it in plastics. We will go. We will purchase it." That was how it started. 1,000 rupees, you may find it. How did he start? Big question. Well, his name he got on credit herbs from somebody else. One more person said, "No, I'll give an overdraft to his name. I have full faith and confidence that his venture will be successful. I'm going ahead." And that is how he began. And it was a proprietorship that he started then. He maintained it that way. Long before the large industries became, Ayurvedic industries became so famous, also many tried to come purchase. He said, "No, I'm functioning according to my way. I will function according to that way." Since 1990 till late 1990s, incidentally, the day I was born, a year I was born. So from that time, his products which he has been developed have been going not just to USA, to some of the most developed countries, to France, Malaysia, uh, even Australia now. And so it is something like what we see. When you can work with the available resources around you, put aside your personal choice and preference. I don't like this person. I don't like that person. This person's views. I don't like this person's behavior. I don't like. Well, it's all right. You may not like it. Nobody is asking you or forcing you to like. But when you have to work, if you're focusing on the work, you need to put your personal preferences aside. That is the only way you can take it ahead. So that is something which we can see. So this is one second aspect of, as the Gita says, being poised in profit or loss, not seeking a choice. Such a person has transcended, and he cannot be bound by works. Now, if you see the next aspect, selflessness. Now, corporate life is almost considered like opposite to selflessness. They say, you want to talk about selflessness, go to charity. Don't talk about that in corporate life. Many people say that. It's like As if selfishness is a virtue, is what many people. This is a line I have heard from some of my friends also in the corporate field. There is something called virtue of selfishness. You don't have it, you will not succeed. And that's the only way companies get big profits. We have seen many big companies who bust also because they're far too selfish, creating such a very vicious work environment. So many problems happen in this, where it's like people don't like working there, or the environment is too hostile, or there's no trust deficit, there's no productivity, there's very decreased loyalty. And earlier times I went many years ago, when maybe even 30, 40 years back, people would work in a private industry also for 35 years. I remember my own classmates, many of my college, I'm working here for next month. They get a better package, I will. They say then there's a very sport style. If you want loyalty, we are going to. This is a very vicious environment. It's a false notion that this gives any kind of success in the corporate world as well. Many of the big corporations talk about it. But then what is, well, if you see empathy and pragmatism, this is something, if you are having this understanding it, you are conscious of the people who are working with you, you are practical also, and you are having that empathy, you're not taking it out. Well, that is the best way to ensure best profits, both individual progress and collective progress. When an individual feels that a person is learning, when an individual feels that a person is growing, why will that individual leave that organization? People, when it was like earlier, that was a very common culture. People had great loyalty towards organization. Pay package would not drive people. Probably that is something which is to be revived as well now, but it is there when the organization cares. I have also known about people wanting to stay back because they understand that this is the organization which is like a parent and feeding them. They will not leave it. So this is something which is interesting, but how is it in corporate culture and Gita? We will come to it. But one more aspect is a lot of people say money and spirituality don't go together. Spirituality is like evil. Says money is evil, and people who are after money say no, don't do spirituality. They use the word do spirituality as if it's something that needs to be done separately. But that is not true in our ancient India. Also, it was never the case. True spirituality does not look at money as evil. It's actually understood as one of the purusharthas, or we can say dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Well, artha is there. Artha is done the right way to uphold dharma without any wrong desires or selfishness. Well, then moksha is also yours only. It comes to your feet. You don't have to worry about it. That's the importance of having the understanding the true value of money, acquiring it, letting it manifest something good and positive. Because in ancient times also wealth had special significance. It was recognized as manifestation of Lakshmi. She is a goddess of prosperity, beauty, harmony, abundance. All of this, wherever this goddess's presence was there, you would find beauty and harmony and a lot of prosperity in that area. Or even vice versa, people would recognize prosperity. Say yes, this is the scheme that's entity. The workplace can become like how beautiful it be. Let us see first law of karma, which is very commonly known to the Karmanyevadika Mam Parishu Kadachana. Mind you, we are going to see if it is actually management. So I'm still reading it out first. You can also interrupt me if you feel it is not relevant after I complete this. I'll just pause for a minute after I finish this shloka. कर्मण्यवाधिकारस्य मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्म फल हेतुर्भूमा ते संगो स्वकर्मणि. Like while working, focus on work, not on the results. Vested you are with the authority to perform. Krishna tells Arjuna, do not seek your actions fruits in any form. When by fruits of actions you aren't motivated from discharging your duties, you never get deviated. So Krishna is saying that you don't have the authority. The Gita at least is talking about this principle, where you are not going to seek the fruits of your action. You are just going to perform your action and focus on the work and not on the fruits. The reason is sometimes it's like all fruits are not favorable. Sometimes if you get unfavorable fruits, you will not get demotivated by it and you will keep continuing your duties. This is something which we see, but what do you think? Is this possible for someone who is in the corporate world or somebody who is dealing with money? Yes, please. Is it logical?
Would someone like to unmute and answer? So I would like you to rephrase briefly your question once again for those who want to know
Okay.
what you're seeking.
Yes. So this aspect of not seeking fruits, perform your duty without fruits. Can you be motivated while doing this? Can you do an action without being motivated by its fruits? Not because I'm getting it. I'm just doing the action because it needs to be done. I'm not going to look at what's going to come out of it. Any such action anybody thinks of?
Yes, Mr. Pratik Singh has raised his hand. Do you want to speak, sir? Please unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, sir.
Sir, actually, it is very difficult for a human being to just to keep performing your work and not look for fruit.
Yes, sir.
But the thing is, sir, what I personally like believe that fruits are not the only goal of a human being
Yes.
to perform tasks. So for me, it's very important to perform the task instead of looking out for a fruit or it's like being a selfish. Like, only I will perform, otherwise I will not do.
Okay. Yes, yes. Yes, so that's a very, what we can say, pragmatic answer. That, yes, we need some motivation. It is difficult. Every ordinary person, all of us, it's a very big task. And Krishna is giving Arjuna the highest. Gita is considering what we say, giving you directly the way to go on top of the highest peak. So how do you reach there? How is it practical? How is it even, is the concept? Because we've all heard that people who are on the spiritual side give away all their wealth. They don't want anything, so they have become selfless and given away their wealth. But can a person in business do that? And for that, if we just see, there's a beautiful shloka. We just come to that. What is the motivation? What is the drive? Because when you have a limited drive of I want to get a result, what happens after you get the result is many times you want another result then, and result doesn't come favorable. I know of a friend who really contemplated about the purpose of the person's life because the person did not get a raise. That was the only reason. Later on, 2 years later, that person got the biggest raise possible. But those 2 years were hell, and that person was just, equating that person's entire life to that raise only. And that 2 years were very difficult for him. So again, let us see this one very beautiful example. Well, we don't have to be what we can say monks who are selling away their own Ferraris. They can be monks in their Ferrari also. They can enjoy life also, live that, and at the same time experiencing the best way. As the Gita says, the example of Raja Janaka. Janaka was one who had infinite wealth. We'll not say infinite wealth, but so much wealth, abundance of wealth. Yet he was not attached to it, and he said, even if my kingdom were to burn, I would not I will not lose anything, and I have so much that more cannot be added. It was a very interesting yogic way. This is not, we are not talking about practical words, these are Vedantic words which he was giving. It's the stuff of a Vedantic story. But if you look at King Janaka, he is the example which Krishna is giving to Arjuna and to everybody. Krishna had so many great examples to give. He had Vyasa, he had Narada, he had so many other yogis, Kapila Muni, so many great rishis who are considered respected, godly people. No, he gave the example of a king who was in the world, who worked selflessly, who somehow found his drive. He found a drive to motivate himself to do perfectly without expecting any results. So this shloka, we will look at it and then we will see if that driving factor is there. Karmanaiva hi sansiddhim astita janakadayah lokah sangrahamevapi sampashyan kartumarhasi. So if you see the word Loka Sangraha, that is the great key. King Janaka and the rest attained perfection only through works and liberated action. If you see liberated action means the action where you are not bound. Many times we feel we are caged and we get more exhausted performing, and when you are free, you actually don't feel that even if you do a lot of work. I think this is something which we have experienced when we do our preferred works, we don't get tired. When we do things we don't prefer, we feel all tired and so, oh God, what a tiring day. I had to do work I don't like. Well, Janaka was not somebody who had preferences also. He said, whatever work. And he was somebody who was surrounded by wealth. He was living in the most, what we can say, this kingdom was a brilliant kingdom. Nagari was a brilliant, what we can call, like what people say, Ram Rajya. Well, that was it. He was a wonderful ruler. His people enjoyed prosperity. But his Lakshmi was just manifesting everywhere. How did he reach that state and how did he maintain it? Well, always only through detached action. We kept doing works, good deeds. Works are not, we cannot leave the works. Nobody, it's not just Krishna doesn't say, Arjuna, now let's start meditating and Duryodhana will now will start burning. No, Arjuna has to do his duties, he has to do his works. That's what Krishna keeps reminding. Works, but works have to be done in a liberated way. You don't have to be having hatred, as Dr. Jayaji pointed about doership. Arjuna was told, become the nimitta matra, become the medium, don't think of anything more than that. I will work through you, but you don't expect anything, just hold on to your duties. Why? Because this line, the second line of the shloka says, detached actions for the sake of the world are best. This is said to be the true yogic way by the wisest. So detached actions for the sake of the world. This is what, there's an beautiful English phrase, low aim is a crime. So that's because when you aim low, you are not going to take efforts also. But when you aim for something high, well, that journey becomes your transformation. That journey makes your personality. And Krishna is giving us a big open sunlit path for an eternal journey or supreme journey, which is going to transform us because you are aiming to every action, every little action. Am I doing it for the betterment of the world? And even as you people throw away their trash, if they can think of betterment of the world, they will start becoming more eco-friendly in their actions. Little actions, what they are doing, if they become conscious. In one village, one mother, while she was raising a child, she was not very educated herself, but she was raising her child, giving him a great, wide perspective of the world, understand, go beyond religion, see people on different aspects. And she did her best in that village, whatever was possible for her. Yet her little actions where she did not have her own extra personal interest that this boy should do this for me, he should get me this kind of wife, she should do this work for me, and this person should do like this. No, she just wanted to create a good personality in her child. Her aim and focus was that. Later on, that child became Abdul Kalam, who was like a father figure for so many, from some small village in one corner, and from there to so many places across the world, and still an inspiration, a living inspiration. What we can say here, the mother's action was Lokasangraha only, where she was doing her work. Sometimes we don't show our works on the outside, and yet our little works can have a great effect. And the Gita also, there's another shloka which talks about Swalpamapyasya dharmasya prayate mahato bhayat. Little actions, small actions also, they can prevent the greatest danger. Well, this is the way of the yogi, this is the way of Raja Janaka. And Krishna says, why are you all aiming for something low? All of you be like Raja Janaka, become the one, the supreme one. So you are never having any insecurity about yourself. You are not going to be driven. Now, all this is beautiful in theory. Is it beautiful in practice? Is the big question. It's not a wrong question to ask. We have to be practical in life. We cannot just go away from the truth. So for that, I'm having a good practical example. This is we talked about Lakshmi. Well, this person's name is Mr. Lakshmi Narayan only. I got his permission to use his name as well. He is associated with our Gita workshops, which we conduct 30-day free workshops for adults. Well, around the COVID time, he joined. Well, this was his experience. He's based in Atlanta. He's a senior manager of a technical consultancy. I'm not naming the name of the organization. He attended the Gita and he suddenly, and he was one wonderful person who, take beautiful notes, sent beautiful audio, had a wonderful metallic voice, which everybody enjoyed the way he described. Each experience of the shloka he could give with everyday life. And somehow the Gita attracted him so much that he started living it all the time and kept sharing examples. I'm just sharing one example of that, which is a brilliant practical example of selfless work done with the aim of Lokasangraha, leading to profits for all, not just that individual, the organization also, other people also, and let us see how it is. I would say this is a way of Karma Yoga, because when you do in Karma Yoga, Krishna also says small actions have a great ripple effect, which can have greater consequences when they are done selflessly. So the story is like this: the client offered a big project to the company. The CEO held a meeting with three team leads. One of them was Mr. Lakshmi Narayanji, and the option was given to them that, see, this is a big project. It's good if we back that project. It's going to help us, but we have a very short deadline. We have very few number of days, and we don't have technical expertise for some portions of this, which is an important aspect of this deal. So the deadline was just 4 to 5 days, and weekend was approaching. So somewhere Lakshmanaji in the meeting, the CEO said, I would allow you, I think you can take the lead. And he just felt, now, why has he given me this work? And he has given the option to quit anytime. That is what the CEO had done. So he said, no, I will do it, and I'll ensure it happens. That's what he said, because somewhere he felt it would be nice for the company, it was required. Then he had a meeting with the other managers afterwards. After that meeting, they were all, see, now weekend is coming and I don't think it's going to work out. We would rather withdraw. We have plans with our families. Now, this Dr. Mr. Lakshmanji, after his Gita thing, workshop was about offering all his work. And he said, no, I offered it to Krishna through the CEO. Because behind the CEO, I feel Krishna is there and he has given me this opportunity to work. I better work, even if I am not successful. Right now, everything looks against it. I also have a family. I have children to look after. But how can I say no to Krishna or give something, some half-hearted work? Let me give my 100%. I don't care if it's successful. And it was really no option. Looking, no way it was looking that it's going to be successful. CEO also knew that it was not possible. Just wanted to ask and give it a try. Now he just prayed and he just said, "I'll do it as my offering." And then there's a beautiful he calls Sakha Bhava. He calls Krishna his friend. These are all internal dialogues. It's nothing wrong or anything. When I talk to psychiatrist friends also, they say, no, it's all fine. People do have that. It's nothing wrong. We all, so it's like he told to his inner divine self. He said, no, I'll do my best. Please somehow find something, let these other people get motivated. And suddenly, within 24 hours, he saw that he got people involved, even people from the other organizations he could contact. Of course, this is not sudden magic. His efforts were there. He is being humble when he says it all happened suddenly. So because 72 hours, in 72 hours, he spent 50 hours doing that work. Even though his other two teammates said they are not working. His family, he also got family. He told them, I'll not be available now. And he kept working. He kept working, and finally, this was ready on the on the previous day. Everybody was surprised. The CEO was surprised when receiving it. He said, "How I don't know how you managed it." And he also replied, "I don't know how to manage it, sir. I say Krishna managed it." It was in Atlanta. That person also wondered what is he saying. The client was happy, and the company backed the contract. Now, what happened, because the company backed the contract, all the fellow colleagues, even those who did not directly support that, they got a share of the profit of his work, and for 2 years, his company is now going to get the benefit of that big contract. If you see a big business contract happening with selflessness, driven by the what we can say, desire to offer the divine and just do our action perfectly without allowing ego to come in, whether this project will raise my portfolio. Is this something which I like? With that person has an ego, he's trying to get some credit out of my work, so I will not allow him to do this work. Or there's a very common line, this is not in my job description. I'm not up to it. I didn't sign up for this. Imagine if everybody said that. Imagine if doctors told that, no, I didn't sign up for Corona. I didn't do this. Or army men said, I didn't get signed up to be thrown by my own countrymen. We stopped fighting for India. What would happen there? Well, there are examples of selflessness everywhere, but in management also. This is something, a culture of selflessness is very essential. And we are seeing this is a very progressive institute where he works as well, one of the large firms in the world. And he's doing quite well in a senior position. He keeps giving example after example. So if I just quoted one for this particular topic, where selfless work in a corporate culture does help. It is important because ultimately it leads to everybody's betterment. Anything done that way never goes waste is what we can see. Now next is the what we can come to almost the final parts of the session. It is about recognizing and integrating opposite natures, because every human being is different. Each person, it's like Krishna has also told that Shraddha, Mayo, Purusha. Each person has a different Shraddha, different faith, different understandings. It's like each person is a different color. So many spectral colors are there. How many colors are there? Maybe that many natures of people are there, or we can say tendencies in people. So the organizational environment, you can say it's like a beautiful khichdi of contrasting natures. Any organization you'll see selfish people, you'll see lazy people, you'll see selfless people, you'll see angry people, you'll see depressed people, you'll be seeing calm people. You'll also see imperfection around, you'll also see perfection around. Now the challenge in management is to work with these resources. You cannot just throw out certain resources just like that. If you do that, your organization's value, prestige, everything goes down. And how do you work with, because you have to make the opposites collaborate and integrate even the most conflicting points of views. Sometimes this person says, no, this is not right. No, that is the only right way. And then there starts the fight. So that is the real challenge. How do we do that? Again, Gita talks about that so well. Look at shloka number 25 from third one. Saktaha karmanya vidvanso yatha kurvanti bharata Kuryad Vidvans Tatha Saktaha Chikirshir Loka Sangraham. Again, it is something which he says, see, I have talked to you about the ideal, but not everybody is ideal. If you look at people, you will not see ideal people everywhere. You will see people who don't agree with us. Interestingly, in the Gita, Krishna says, what is night for one person is day for the other. What is day for this person is night for the other. How do you deal with them? Well, Krishna tells very simply, see, understand the way of function, understand people. That is very important. Understand the person you are interacting with. Many times, if you understand it, that will solve half of the problems. Why is this person behaving this way? Oh, Arjuna, he says, just as the men of ignorance perform, their actions all engrossed in attachment, so too the wise remain motivated as a norm to better the world by their works in detachment. So if you see men of ignorance, well, they are having attachment, drives, desires only. I will work for this desire. I'm going to work for my paycheck, nothing more than that. Well, understand that that is the motivation for that person. Just it is just like another opinion of a person. Another person has an idealist view. Another person has got not a non-idealist view. Just like recognize as two different opinions. Do not get totally lost. As a management person, you have to be detached. You have to see. You have to see everything and function with everything. You cannot totally ignore it, but you can understand it. So this is the driving factor for this person. This is the driving factor for another person. Next is the interesting one. Na buddhi bhedam janayedajnanam karma sanginam joshayat sarva karmani vidvan yuktah samacharan. Without creating a divide in ignorant minds, a middle path the intelligent mind finds. He gets the right work done from the attached despite his fully remaining detached. If you see, without creating a division, na buddhi bhedam, what happens is when you create a division in another person's mind, he says, I think this action is useless. You immediately jump and say, this is your wrong thinking. Why do you think this action is useless? This is the right action. So if you see that person's understanding is like that, your job is not to completely change. They have not come for course correction or direction. It is also said in the Gita, don't preach the Gita to anyone. There's an important thing. It is only when somebody comes to you, wants to learn, and you know something, you share it. Otherwise, don't go sharing. It is something basic psychology. Most of our ancient rishis also identified. Even the guru of Shivaji Maharaj had written a beautiful book on human psychology, Das Bod, which starts with Vicharla Vinasange to Ati Murkha. That person is a fool who speaks without being asked. Well, something like that. If somebody is having a wrong notion, unless that wrong notion is directly affecting your organization or works, just do not create a divide in the mind of the person. It's like selfless thoughts. He says, no, I am believing in selfishness. So you can at least understand this person is motivated by selfish works. It's all right. You just understand it first. Create a middle path instead of creating this is the I like only this, I like only this. Then it creates more fight. Normally, the number of selfish people are more and selfless people are less. Then it's not going to function. Instead, the middle path has to be found in management. Also, it's very important. The intelligent mind finds the way how to get the right work done from the attached. This need not be told because all of I think our adults we have understood where we understand. I think how we work with individuals who are having some kind of drive. Sometimes managers do a trick also. Sometimes they know that a person who is driven by desires, you just promise that person some fruit because that person is driven by fruits only. Yeah? We will talk about you in the next meeting next month. We will consider your raise request. That's it. There is no meeting next month, but this manager is now utilizing the attachments because attachments make people vulnerable. He says, okay, and immediately this person starts working day and night extra hard because that is the work. Finally, this person gets his project work done, and this person gets disappointed 1 month later that there was no meeting. But what's this? This is what we can say where this is where a person is manipulating another person, but without having to manipulate. Well, if you can understand and if you can work, that is the best way, is what Krishna is saying. But don't create divide. Even on the spiritual path, different spiritual paths talk about different things. One person says you offer fruits, another person says don't offer fruits. Your job is not to go on making fights with people. Don't create the word buddhi vedam. Is your ideology, you live with your ideology. Be concerned with the action when you're in the workplace. The action is more important and how the person does it. So that is one important thing, especially nowadays, hostile environments, people keep fighting over ideologies, and that sometimes reflects into the workplace. That at least you can keep it and you can keep that discussions. Let us have these intellectual discussions outside, not in the workplace. While working, let's focus on this. But you can recognize and work. And another way of recognizing is to understand the nature of the people, because this comes with observation. If we see, the first was observe yourself. When you're ready to observe, you have done observing yourself, understood what's good, what's wrong, then you're ready to observe people around you. And that is where the universal operating system of three gunas takes place. Gita tells us that there are, like we have in the software, we have mostly three operating systems. If you look at it, most of the companies either have Mac or we can say the Apple has a different software, Windows is there for another, or there's a Linux as well. Some of the common, of course, there are more, but almost most of the computers, laptops, they work on one of these softwares. Like that, Gita says each human being, though we all are different, though all of us are unique, overall we work in one of these softwares only, Rajas, Tamas, or Sattva. And there are beautiful chapters devoted in the Gita for each of these. But if you see, it's like when in Romans do as Romans do. It's a very common phrase. Understand the nature of the individual. Assign works to that person as per nature, because Rajasic nature is very passionate person, easily triggered person as well, very emotional as well, a loud person. That's probably Rajas. If you can identify Rajasic nature in an individual, you will know this is Rajasic person. Sattva person is peaceful. Tamas person is what we can say lazy, all the time, not wanting. Sattva person is more of the selfless works which people do. These are sattvic works, wanting to do betterment for others. Rajasic persons may actually have aim of doing works with a selfish interest. But tamasic people may have aims of doing with what we can say a devilish interest, wanting to spoil somebody or spoil the organization by their actions. So what you can do is you can actually promote the sattvic nature in the individual wherever you can see it manifesting in that individual. Control what is rajasic and try to eliminate what is tamasic. Because some places you see all of these natures, some probably avoiding tamasic is the best one. But the rajas and sattva, you cannot make everybody sattvic or make everybody rajas. You cannot change anybody's original system. Let the system function. Maybe one system is not efficient. Avoid it if possible. You can eliminate that system. But rajas and sattva, these are good. They're not causing any harm to anybody, not doing anything wrong to anyone. Probably because of their systemic functioning. Sattvic nature may be very soft-spoken. But if a company which is working to get recoveries and loans, you cannot send a sattvic person and ask him to have wonderful dialogue and get loan recovery, because that person will not have very good connections. This has been noticed as well. For them, they need people who are strong in their words. They use impulsive words. They force, why are you not capable? You better do this work right. Now that is their nature. But in a company, we cannot create natures of people. People come with natures, you have to utilize them. So that's one thing. So same way, you cannot send a Rajasic person for an important discussion and meeting. He will spoil the entire 10, 20-year relationship of an organization by one, two lines, because the person gets triggered very easily and is impulsive. So each nature has its place, but we need to understand it, which operating system is what function where, because that is one important aspect. We come to the last part of this session that way, recognizing your mission. So each person must recognize, each individual has a purpose, a mission. There is no higher work, there is no lower work. I think this we all learned in Corona pandemic, where all the Swachhata Karyakartas were given there was a rain of flowers in many colonies as they came, because they were the ones in the first wave taking all the risk, fighting an unknown fear. That time we didn't even know what was going to happen. At that time also they understood their value, and they were really important. They still are important, only we realize it a little late. So something like that, understand the mission, recognize your own personal mission. If you are an employer, recognize or enable your employees to recognize their mission. And if they learn to stay to it, then they will become best. Expertise also comes to that only. 18th Adhyay, 45th and 48th shloka, two shlokas are shared. स्वे स्वे कर्मण्य निरतः संसिद्धिं लभते नरः स्वकर्म निरतः सिद्धिं यथा विन्दति तच्छृणु. Why should you identify natures of yourself and allow that person to function? A man who in his own works of nature perseveres, his skills mature as towards perfection he nears. How perfection is achieved, I shall now say, listen to me as I shall reveal the way. He says, when you understand a person's nature and that person works in that person's nature, it's a very interesting thing. A small example though, in our factory we had two workers from the village. One person has got a little bit good tone, another person has got a little bad tone of talking. So what I tried was, I thought, let us try to change the tone of this person, and so I gave that person a task of calling some organizational person and find out about some work. And then I got a call directly from the head of that organization. He said, "We don't want to work with you." I just asked, "What happened? Why did this suddenly happen?" So this person called and talked to me in this way. I cannot believe you can talk this way. And so I very sincerely apologized. I went back and I asked what happened. And I had asked him and he is not listening. So I immediately told, "You better give it right now, or else we're not interested in working with you." And I said, "You are not going to get some kind of vegetables from the market. You are speaking to the head of an organization. You have been given a work." So here was where I understood that I was trying to do the wrong thing. This is how a person speaks, that person's nature. Let it remain there. So the direction of work for that person was changed. That person was appointed a work in another field where that person could work well, and now that person is one of the always sought person for that particular work. And why? Well, that is by nature of that person. When it's working in a place where it suits that person, then the person's skill also starts maturing, and then slowly that person goes towards perfection. How perfection is achieved, this Adhyay Krishna tells in detail. But we will now, I think, Jayaji also talked about those 5 factors. That was very interesting. They require also some more time, but we will not look at them now. But this chapter, there is much of it, and then comes the next part. It is something where if you see, we've talked about, we know about Six Sigma, we want to get maximum efficiency, but how do we get that? We say we want zero defect. But we are humans, we aspire for zero defect. But then Gita says you understand defects are there in every human action. Slowly, when a person is able to understand and go in their works and rise, these defects also start disappearing. This Adhyay talks about that perfection. Sahajam karma kaunteya sadosham api natyajet. Sarvarambha hi doshena dhomenadhi devavritah. Because if we are too pressurizing our members about perfection also. Yes, perfection must be reached, but perfection cannot be reached overnight. It actually has a wrong experience on people also. They get pressured and these pressures affect their output also. The duty towards oneself, oh Arjuna, one mustn't forsake. Without abandoning work, in the actions one must partake. So actions must not be left aside, but one should not forget their own personal duties also. Why? Even if defectively done, it's okay, is what Krishna says. He's somebody who talks about perfection in everything. He says in the final adhyaya, see, I've talked about perfection everywhere, but you understand it's all right. Defects are possible, even if defectively done. All actions are cloaked with defect, just as fire is masked by its own smoke's effect. If you see the smoke is just a second, the last slide, I'll just complete. Yes, the fire is masked by its own smoke's effect. If you watch a fire, sometimes firefighters have trouble dousing the flames in buildings because there's so much smoke. The fire is brilliant on its own, but along with the fire comes the smoke which masks its perfection. Something like that. Every action has some element of imperfection, which has to be understood, and then only it can be transcended. So probably when we start functioning according to our natures, naturally people will feel motivated to work and evolve on their own. With this, we go to the last. I think we conclude with a nice Mahavakya of the Gita, we can call it, if we want to. There are so many beautiful words, statements like that, like this one. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. This is especially close to me because of my teacher. He keeps repeating this, and he says perfection in works is only spirituality. So each work that we try, we must try to do it perfectly. If you can do that, well, you don't have to worry. Your QCs are all going to just automatically fall in place. You just have to verify. QC control will only prove your actions are right. You don't have to worry about doing certain different things, make things conform to quality. And consciously, workers will also start understanding it, and you don't have to impose anything. So I think with this, we are completing this session on the management principles of the Gita. If anybody has any queries, you can start. I've stopped presenting. Yes, please. Hari Om.
Thank you, sir.
Namaste.
We would like participants to either ask by unmuting, share their thoughts by unmuting themselves, or if you have any points to write, you can even type. I think you went into so much of detail and depth with relevant examples that everybody could relate to what you have said, sir. Yes, we are already getting these remarks that every point was very well explained. And what I loved is that you started with how, first of all, it's important to know yourself. When you talk of organization and management, one has to first organize oneself, one has to manage oneself. For that, one has to know oneself. So it all starts with self-awareness, and when you extend it to the outside world, to the other people, you then value their individuality, their individual traits, personalities, their strengths as well as their weaknesses, and then how to manage everybody's weakness, how to understand that things would not always be perfect, and how to come to a middle path, find a middle ground with people. I think that there was such insightful lessons from each of those pointers that you brought out. I'm sure everybody has some ideas of their personal and professional lives where they are leading, whether it's a classroom, it's their family, or professionally somewhere. And they will see the relevance of all these points that you've mentioned so well,
Thank you.
ready to implement, that will transform.
I think you summarized it better. Your summary was better, I felt.
It is only because my teacher was good. The teacher has explained so well. So yes, we are getting the responses. The content was excellent, and your examples were real life examples, which were thought provoking. Shlokas that you have taken were very relevant to the message that we wanted to convey through the talk. So on behalf of everybody, I extend heartfelt gratitude to you, sir. We would reflect more and more on today's lessons. Thank you for making us realize how we can move from managing ourselves to managing people, and ensuring that there is harmony and there is common vision in an organization.
And that is what Gita is all about. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
So we have a very short video.
Yes, please.
Of a little duration for you as a token of gratitude.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
This was the 8th Aadharshila Talk at RRIS. We invite you and all the participants to the next talk, 81st Aadharshila Talk at RRIS next Monday. See you then.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Good day.
Bye-bye. So once again, thank you so much
Thank you, ma'am. Thank
for being
you,
in Aadharshila.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks to all our participants. Have a great day ahead. See you next Monday. Thank you, Praveer, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Very happy birthday to you, ma'am.
Thanks, Maya. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.